Welcome back to Business Lunch. Fuel prices have seen their largest 10-day hike ever. Prashant, my colleague, has put together some interesting data. Prashant, over to you.
So this is the largest price increase in any 10-day period ever. That is essentially the long and short of it. So prices in the current phase have moved up 5.5 odd rupees a litre for petrol and about 5 rupees and 80 paise odd for diesel. This is over the last 10 days. You can go back in history and other periods, other similar 10-day periods fall short by quite a bit. Remember, daily price fixes started only sometime in middle of 2017. Before that you had periods of when prices used to move monthly, then they became fortnightly, and then finally we got daily price changes. But I would reckon that even if you go back to fortnightly or monthly changes, the current 10-day change that we've seen would probably rank right up there. But from the middle of 2017, when these daily changes started, this most definitely is the biggest 10-day change or rise that we've seen. By the way, Brent oil prices in the current episode are in the 30s, just under 40, a shade under $40. The next period that you got to go back is July of 2019. Oil prices back then were in their 60s. At that point, over a 10-day period, prices of petrol moved roughly about 3 rupees a litre, diesel moved about 2 rupees and 80 paise. Then you got to go back even more to May 2018 when Brent oil prices were in their 70s. Back then, petrol prices moved up about 2.9, diesel prices moved up about 2.4 rupees a litre or so. The compulsion is very simple. There are two ways you can react to prices when they go up. Either you can, excise duties, of course, as we've been highlighting, not just, exactly 1 month back, I put out data which showed how the share of excise and state taxes has gone up and now contributes the bulk of what we pay at the pump for both petrol and diesel. So, when prices after such increase in taxation levels goes up, or the international price of crude goes up, there are only two ways in front of the government. One is to reduce taxes. And of course, the tax collection situation is pretty grim right now with the economic condition because of the lockdown, etc. So that's, I guess, not an option. And the other option is to increase, the prices that one pays at the pump, and that's exactly what we've seen now over the last 10 days. So, big changes coming in over the last 10 days. Back to you.
Prashant, thanks much, but keep your eye on the market. The fall in the key indices has become very, very sharp suddenly. So now the Nifty is down about 0.5% right now. The Sensex is down 160 odd points. In fact, on the Nifty, we have slipped below 9,800 right now. The mid-cap index aggravating its fall very, very rapidly. So 0.8% gone on that one. And look at the financials. So Nifty Bank, 1.5% down currently, and you can only imagine the fall from the day's high. And look at the set of stocks that's actually losing right now. So if you look at the constituents in the Nifty, IndusInd Bank has lost 6.5% in just the last few minutes alone. From the day's high, it's down about 11% right now. Likewise for Axis Bank, lost about over 10% from the day's high, about 7-8% currently down. Bajaj, Fin, ICICI Bank. So clearly it's the financials which are losing the most right now, getting hurt the most. And what follows next is a clutch of other stocks like Tata Motors, there's JSW Steel, etc., which are also not doing well. So, metal stocks, steel stocks not doing well, and financials really taking the biggest beating right now. In fact, as we speak, the mid-cap index has aggravated its fall to almost about 0.8% right now. The advanced decline ratio as well not looking very, very good. So over 1,240 stocks on the NSE are declining against just 980 stocks which are advancing. So as of now, the ratio is tilted in favor of stocks which are declining. But it looks like, as the trading session progresses, perhaps this ratio will deteriorate, further, at least for now. What we do know now is that there is a briefing by the Army Chief at about 2 p.m. this afternoon. So that's something that, the market watchers may want to monitor. You'll get the statement from the Army as against what has really transpired at the border in eastern Ladakh yesterday. What we know as of now is that an army officer and 2 soldiers were killed in a face-off that took place with Chinese troops yesterday. So we'll wait for the army briefing, which is due at 2 p.m. today. For now, that's about all we have. And even the rupee, we may want to actually look at it, what the rupee is trading at currently. But it would have certainly come off from the day's, high point. There it is. You can see heading now even further to the day's low, 76.12 on the rupee. But we'll keep an eye on the market for sure. And we'll get in Anuj also to share some more insights on the market. But for now, this is about all we have. 9,800 now on the Nifty, back from the lows. So let's see which way this seesaw is going to move. But let's get into more corporate opinion for the moment. We spoke with the JNPT chairman earlier today, and he tells CNBC TV 18 that India is shipping out more exports actually, and that the port is back to working at 90% capacity in the last 5 days.
Overall, if we look at it, I mean, unlock basically means in June that exports have picked up. So it will be only a little while by the time imports will also come to that balancing level. Even though in the beginning there was an apprehension that there will be a lot of skips, and because there are no exports, because once there are no exports, a lot of vessels that are getting the imports also get affected. But we managed to do this 70%. And in June also, as I'm saying, till now, the only change in the equation is that in fact last 5 days I'm doing as much as 90% plus of the exports. Now since we are only on the 15th of June, by 30th of June, as I'm saying, the imports should also pick up. The first 2 months, April and May, all the exports were mostly food related, which are again considered as essential. And now when we say imports have dropped a little, their most imports are now pharmaceuticals.
All right, so let's keep an eye on the market. The Sensex is seeing just some minor gains into the green for now. But, the Nifty has flattened out completely. So clearly, from the day's low, we've seen some bit of buying come through. There were some clashes that took place at the border in eastern Ladakh last evening, and perhaps that is what is leading to this amount of nervousness in the market right now. But there is an army briefing at 2, which we'll be closely monitoring. Anuj is also joining in now. Anuj, what are you making of this sharp, sudden fall and an equally sudden and sharp recovery?
Okay, yeah, sorry, Sumer, I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Well, this is a very, very violent move in the market. I think also what's happened at the border, the India-China border news that we got. This perhaps was a trigger. Market was anyway showing you some kind of fatigue after opening higher. All of this boils down to the market positioning. The market opened with such a massive gap up. It was tough to sustain that, and the market needed perhaps some kind of a trigger to breach important levels. But as you pointed out, there's been some kind of recovery from the lower level. In fact, a sharp recovery. What happened in the last 30 minutes can be attributed mainly to perhaps some kind of basket selling. Once the news hits you, in that case, and that's the problem with the ETF driven markets or algo driven markets, programmed markets. All you need is one bad news, one stop loss getting triggered, and after that leads to the cascading impact. What you had in our market was a cascading impact. Once one level was gone, after that the another, then another, and that's what happened. And now from the lower level we are seeing a bit of a buying as well. So as of now, the market's got itself into this range of 9550 to 10,000. You tested the lower end, came back, tested the higher end today, and came back. That's I guess how you will describe the market right now, Sumera.
Okay, so Anuj, what's the sense now going ahead? We understand that there could be a briefing by the army chief as well as at 2. And, you've been telling us always that 2 is around the time when the market also turns. So what should traders and out for around that time?
Well, Sumera, I think most of the traders would have been stopped out today. Both sides. The moves have been so sharp and so vicious. This is a market which has got itself now vulnerable to these kind of swings. It's a swinging market. I think perhaps this news has now opened up another risk factor for India. And with China, it's always a much bigger risk factor. We've had our skirmishes in the past with Pakistan, but the market takes it in its stride. China, of course, is a more powerful sort of neighbor. So in that sense, the market will get worried. I think the news talks about 2 deaths on our side, including a colonel. So obviously, this escalation looks severe. So right now, the market's reacting. Keep an eye on the broader market because that's where a lot of gains are. But this is not the kind of news which will just lead to the market collapsing. As I said, this is a market where a lot of factors are working. There's global liquidity on the one hand, and there's this news flow on the domestic side. But because the market just gets into this program trades and gets into the basket kind of modes, you see these kind of intraday moves. On the bank Nifty, we saw 1,000-point swing from the high to low, and from the low to high, we've again seen about 300-400 point recovery, if I'm not wrong. I think on the Nifty as well, we've seen about a 300 point slip from the highest point, and then again seen a 100-point recovery from the low point. So I think if you have the penchant to take these kind of swings, perhaps you can do that. But my sense is that the last hour could have some more volatility. The day's high and the day's low, within that, I think you'll have a lot of volatility now.
All right, Anuj, thanks much. Anuj will join you again at 2:30, of course, for closing bell. For now, we'll wrap up then on Business Lunch. Do stay tuned in. The market action continues on CNBC TV 18.